Hi, everybody. I'm Jeffrey Driscoll.
And I'm Jim Kerr.
Welcome to 15 Minutes of Fame. Let's start off as we normally do on the ice. Another week of hockey is in the books, Jim. What that means for the Oilers is that #1 overall pick Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is fastly approaching his 9th game in the NHL. The same question we've been asking for the past 9 weeks. Will they keep him?
I thought it was a no-brainer after seeing the first, few games and even, another big goal against the New York Rangers. There is some people now, I think it's only because the deadline's approaching, that there's people saying that they might send him back, and sources say that the Red Deer Rebels think he's coming back, that type of stuff. But I haven't seen anything that makes me think that they're going to send him down because he's contributing every night. He's like all the things that we like about his game have remained consistent, I would say, or at least consistent enough in this first batch of games here. And the kid's got 5 goals coming into this week. That's pretty good.
No, he's doing all right. I think he stays for sure. There's no way they send him back at this point.
The size issue that people made a big deal about in the summer, I don't even see it.
No.
Like he's one thing you notice about him is that he doesn't get hit a lot because he's a real heads-up guy, and he's one of those players he's there, and he doesn't look like he's putting a whole lot of effort into being somewhere, but he's there. Like he knows exactly where to be.
No,
and he seems to be. He's a lot bigger than I thought he was going to be.
Yeah, like we were always saying, his vision is absolutely unbelievable, and I think that goes a long way to not getting hit too as well. No, I agree. Let's take a look around the rinks here. What team is the biggest surprise for you so far? Let's start on the Western Conference.
How about the Dallas Stars?
Yeah.
No fans at home, but they're killing it. On the other side of it, the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're brutal so far.
0-7-1 or 0-7 or something like that.
Yeah, they even lost to Ottawa.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was, probably in the East, they're the worst. They're the team you're going, oh my God, I can't believe these guys are as bad as they are. But at least they've now beat a couple of other bad teams in the Jets and Blue Jackets. But the Dallas Stars are off to an unreal start. But again, what's almost as impressive, but in a bad way, as their numbers is the attendance on home ice. They're getting 5,000, 6,000, 7,000.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
Absolutely ridiculous. As well is the play of Sheldon Surrey, who makes me so angry.
He's doing good though.
Yeah, he's doing fantastic.
You kind of got to half root for him because.
Wow, totally. I suppose one big surprise has got to be the Pittsburgh Penguins. Still no Crosby, and they've been playing without Malkin, basically off and on. Yet they're winning games and looking good doing it. What's going on there? What's their keys to success?
Well, they got the goaltending, and that's always going to be a huge thing. But they've built a solid lineup over the last several years. Good D, but what about James Neal?
Yeah,
he's on fire. Everything's going in for the guy, and that's when you got your some of your top players missing, and you got a guy like that who's stepping in right away and making a pretty big impact. That's huge.
No,
even Aaron Asham scored a goal.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean the play of Chris Letang over the first couple of games has been absolutely unbelievable. The guy has picked up the ball and run with it. That's for sure. He's just so fast and fantastic. And
he's playing with an edge too.
Yeah.
And it got him in a bit of trouble there a couple of games ago. But he's you want a guy to be kind of on that line.
Totally. Moving on to football in the CFL, the Edmonton Eskimos almost let one slip away on Friday night, Jim. It was scary. They were up 31-3, looking good over Toronto, heading into the fourth quarter, but they gave up 21 points, 3 touchdowns, 3 converted touchdowns, Jim. Are they back on the rise, though, at the right time, heading into the playoffs here?
Well, I'm no mathematician, but 31-3 seems like a lot.
Yes.
And to be fair, one of those touchdowns came off a pretty horrific call by the refs on a pass interference that nobody but this one ref seemed to see. But I guess you can forgive them maybe for taking their foot off the gas a little bit, up 31-3 after 3 quarters.
Right.
The offense is playing well. You see a lot of consistency from Jerome Messam, who's in all likelihood good here, going to become the first Canadian running back to rush for 1,000 yards in a season since like 2000.
Yeah.
But you've got your running game through him, really excelling right now, and he's also catching the ball, which is good too. He's a very versatile, big guy, but he's showing like a measure of consistency right now that they've been hoping he'd show all year. Ricky Ray is, he's getting the offense going a little bit, but I think that, if they win next week in BC, they'll really have the confidence to maybe make some noise in the playoffs. We might even get a home playoff game out of it. It's been a while since we had one of those.
Absolutely. Another interesting storyline from Friday and the CFL was that the Calgary Stampeders benched Henry Burris for the first time since 2005. Drew Tate came in and played well in a win over the Riders. But is this the beginning of the end of the Burris era in Calgary, in Stampsland? Yeah,
well, there's kind of talk both ways. Some people are, oh no, it's just, they just had to change things up or whatever, blah blah blah. But there's also rumors, and there have been rumors for a while, that he might end up in Toronto. The comments that he made to the media ahead of Friday's game, he wasn't happy. And you expect your starting quarterback of many years to not be happy if you're sitting him for non-injury, non-resting reasons. But no, sometimes when guys are that mad, it means that it's maybe time for a change, and maybe he comes in again next week, and all is well in Calgary. But Drew Tate played pretty good.
Absolutely.
He played real good for his first. He's one of these guys who hasn't started a game since his senior year in college years ago. But no, he looked really good running that offense. But I think they even brought Burris in for the short yardage situation. It's
that's just
like legit
right
backup
there.
stuff.
Yeah. Let's move on to baseball here. It's the Fall Classic. I know we don't talk a whole lot about baseball in 15 Minutes of Fame, but we got to talk about the Red Sox and how they're getting raked over the coals by people trying to figure out why they fell apart the way that they did. The latest rumor is that, this is great, on their off days, certain pitchers would secretly drink beer in the dugout. Don't you love baseball, Jim? And, filming this kind of thing.
What were you saying?
Beer what?
It's probably something that happens everywhere.
Oh, like probably.
They talk about, like, players around the league talk about rally beers.
Yeah.
It's like, come into the ninth, you just go smash a beer to, like, get yourself going. Baseball's amazing. Right?
Baseball is amazing.
These guys chewing tobacco, eating hot dogs. They're enjoying the experience just as much as the fans are. And, they shouldn't be faulted for that. But this whole thing, everyone's trying to find a reason that the Red Sox fell apart the way they did. Sometimes it just happens. Had they gone on and won out the rest of the season and marched all the way to the World Series, people would be saying, this rally beer sounds like a good idea.
They're probably
brand of beer called Rally Beer coming out.
That's right. One last thing before we move on over to the GABBYS. There's controversy, Jim, in the Lingerie Football League, and we got to talk about this because it's coming to Edmonton. Don't you know? We're getting a team. So
I've seen the calendar in the studio there.
That's right.
2012 marked off.
Yeah, X's until it comes up. 22 of the 26 members of the interestingly named Toronto Triumph quit in protest of 4 players and a coach being released. Controversy there, Jim. We don't want to see much of that coming into Edmonton, but what's going on there?
Yeah, there's 2 sides to every story, of course. What I read was that the league says, they don't care for people who are just in it to be celebrities.
Yeah, right.
Because they're pushing the whole athlete, blah,
trying to be
blah.
legitimate.
Yeah. To be honest, I haven't watched a lot of LFL action yet.
Sure you haven't. Yeah.
And I just love this. But even more interesting than this is the LFL talking about wanting to have a youth league.
Oh, that is interesting.
A youth league of lingerie football. So that there's a development system.
Right, you gotta have a minor league or some.
Basically, high school cheerleaders with contact. Yeah. I think is what they're looking for. But I don't know how. Oh, you can imagine the uprising, the uproar over that.
Yeah. We're going to move on to the Gabbies now. These are good and bad by you. How about we start with a good to 52-year-old Dewey Bozella. I love this story, Jim. He made his pro boxing debut earlier this month. 52 years old. He spent 26 years in jail for a murder he didn't commit. Reminded me of the Hurricane right there. He was the boxing champ of his jail and earned 2 college degrees while incarcerated. He beat 30-year-old Larry Hopkins on the undercard of the Bernard Hopkins-Chad Dawson fight. He says he's now going to open up the gym. I love stories like this. I wish they didn't have to happen, but good for him.
Yeah, he says he's not going to fight again. That's probably a good call, idea. But it's awesome that he came out and won.
Absolutely.
Love that. Let's give a good to Joe Thornton and Hal Gill for playing in their 1,000th career games this past week. Gill's Habs lost to the Pens. Thornton had a goal and an assist in a 4-3 shootout win for the Sharks over the Devils. Nick Lidstrom also played in his 1,500th career game, but we won't talk about how that one went.
That one was pretty rough. I was wondering if you were going to bring that up.
Probably the roughest.
Good for all of them. I like Jumbo Joe. I think he's an amazing player. So good for him. He got a cheer when he went to play in Boston this week as well. So good for him. And finally, a good, maybe even a great to a group of Canadian swimmers at the Pan Am Games who won silver medals this week, but also won over the pro-Mexican crowd by wearing, those Mexican wrestling masks, the luchador masks, to the pool before the women's 4x100 relay. Good for them. Beauty. That's Canadian spirit. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I saw that story and just laughed. That's wicked. I wonder if they wore it while they were swimming. On the bad side, people are talking panic button in Montreal because the Habs lost their first 3 home games of the season.
No.
For the first time, Jeff, since 1938.
No statistics.
Talk to me though when they've lost their first 30.
Yeah,
by the time we say, hey, we got a problem on home ice. We had our little segment last week. Early season statistics are stupid. There we are.
There we are. Early season statistics are stupid.
Yes.
How about a bad to Floyd Landis? Man, this guy is the disgraced former Tour de France winner is now accused, along with his manager, of trying to hack into the computer system of a French anti-doping lab. Landis had his 2006 title stripped, you'll remember, for doping, and he's been on a rampage ever since. You know what? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hack in, and they're never going to know.
Yeah, I'm not guilty.
Yeah.
And to prove it, I'm going to hack into your system.
That's right.
And make sure that it says not guilty.
Exactly. Just to clear everything up.
Allegedly.
Yes.
Allegedly.
Of course.
And a bad this week to soccer player Yoav Ziv of Maccabi Tel Aviv.
That's some nice pronunciating right there.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
He got himself a straight red card in the Europa League action this past week for kicking his shoe at a linesman. He was upset that his foot had been stepped on, resulting in his shoe leaving his foot. So he protested in the only way he could think of at that moment. And what I loved about that is it was one of those, as soon as, on his follow-through, you could tell he was thinking, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
What did I do?
I shouldn't have done that. Oh, boy. Because it hits the linesman, and that's it. And he's going, oh, no.
I'm sorry.
Attaboy.
Yeah. We're moving on to the punchline. Ladies and gentlemen, the punchline this week is fantastic. It's by a guy named Jace Lankow. Ran onto the field during a UCLA-Arizona football game dressed like a ref, then took his clothes off and ran around. The best part isn't even that part. For some reason, that kicked off a massive brawl between the two teams. If you watch the video, he runs kind of through, and then there's some punches, and then all of a sudden there's a brawl going on.
The length of the field.
Oh, totally, exactly. Lankow is now facing up to 1.5 years in prison.
Honest to God, he's being charged with criminal impersonation of a college ref.
Of a college ref, and there's your punchline.
Criminal impersonation, because that...
Absolutely.
Attaboy.
We're going to move on to quick hits now. Bill Guerin says NBA players... So NHL former player Bill Guerin says NBA players should take a deal because it's not worth losing a season. He would know, of course. Will they, Jim?
Right. I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
The talks there are very contentious from what I've heard in the last few days. It's nice of him to give his advice, and they should consider it. They should listen to him, and they should consider that, here's a guy who lost an entire season, or, from a league who lost an entire season. He doesn't think this is a good idea. They took a bad deal, but the way hockey is now, it's back to where
It was.
Pretty much is back to where it was,
Yeah.
just under different rules, because that's what's going to happen.
That's
Owners,
exactly what's going to happen.
as soon as they get a deal, they're going to find ways around the deal to maximize their interest. And that's why it's funny that they're so aggressive about this. Like, they're just the players aren't the ones signing these massive deals that, you know, bog things down. But I don't think they're going to take the advice. I hope they at least consider it.
Yeah, I think I could probably say right now, I mean, I'm not the only one, but I think they're going to lose the whole season myself. You know, it'll be interesting to see, though. Anyways, folks, that's our 15 minutes of fame up for this week. Join us again next week when we get a whole new 15 minutes of fame. In the meantime, I'm, as always, Jeffrey Driscoll.
And I'm Jim Kerr.
All right, have a good week, folks.